Right, we are set and let's start. Om Yadyadacharati Shrestha Tattadevetaro Janah Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokastadanu Vartate. Talking of eminent people who become leaders in different ways. Lord Sri Krishna in the Gita says, knowingly or unknowingly, the eminent one, the leader, sets examples for others, and people follow her or his example. Therefore, the leader has immense responsibility on his shoulders. He has to recognize that and be all the more careful. Therefore, leadership has been a topic of much interest in both secular and spiritual contexts. In this webinar 274, we shall see a few glimpses of what the very wise Prime Minister of Hastināpura, Vidura, has got to say about leadership. Most of you surely know that Vidura, Dhritarāsthra and Pāndu had the same biological father. All the three of them are sons of Vedavyasa. When the queens Ambika and Ambalika lost their husbands in some war, their mother-in-law was so disturbed. How will our royal family continue? Their husbands are gone, which means Satyavati's two sons had died. Then Satyavati calls a son born to her many years before even he had married the king of Hastinapura. That's another long story. When she was called Matsyagandha, this Satyavati, daughter of a fisherman, had given birth to a son. And that time, the father of that little boy was a great rishi called Parashara. Parashara's son was Vedavyasa, and later Satyavati, Matsyagandha becomes Satyavati, changed name, and she marries Shantanu, the king of Hastinapura. He has the sons Chitravirya, Vichitravirya. So the same lady long back had Vedavyasa as her son, and many years later, as the queen of Hastinapura, got two sons. But alas, those two sons died in a war, and their yeah, wives, Ambika and Ambalika, they get these sons, Pandu and Dhritarāsthra. And Vedavyasa, who blesses them with a son each, also blesses a servant maid, a dasi. And this dasi, mother of Vidura, hands over her son for the service of the palace. Vidura being very wise, Vidura being very, very intelligent, thanks to his father being no other than Vedavyasa, and his mother, though not queen, not of royal origin, had apparently a very straightforward and pure mind. Many a time it's not just lineage or scholarship, but certain quality of the antakarana. So this would once more give you a review of who this Vidura is Vidura is thus the stepbrother of Pāndu and Dhritarāsthra. And all of you know the story. Dhritarāshtra's sons, the 100 Kauravas, and Pandu's sons, the 5 Pandavas, are all set to fight each other in a very big, huge war, the war of Kurukshetra. Vidura Neeti is certain conversation between Vidura and Dhritarāshtra a couple of days before the war began. Dhritarāshtra gets no sleep. All night he is staring at the ceiling, for due to his weak mind, Dhritarāshtra could not say to his wicked son Duryodhana, "Stop this war, give half the kingdom to Pandavas, which they fully deserve. Let them rule half the kingdom, and you may rule the other half." He didn't have the guts. As you know, Dhritarāshtra was so weak-hearted and he was excessively attached to his son. He made the mistake. It was his blunder. But then he pays the price. He is so anxious now, the war will begin. And what if my son Duryodhana dies? If you are so afraid even now, why don't you put your foot down? You are the king, you are the eldermost. You can say this war is cancelled. And his sons dare not oppose him unless they go to some very adharmic, unethical extreme of finishing off their father. No, they would not do that, but it would lead to other complications. Anyhow, one of the names for this Udyoga Parva, where Vidura Neeti is located, Udyoga Parva is the 5th Parva in Mahābhārata, which has 18 Parvas. After Udyoga Parva, the next one has the war starting. That's where you find Bhagavad Gita also taught. So this is in the Parva, the huge section before the section that has Bhagavad Gita in it. Name of Udyoga Parva, another name, is Prajagara Parva. That is because Jagara means keeping awake. Prajagara means keeping very awake, eyes wide open, even at midnight, 2 a.m. When everybody is enjoying blissful sleep, Dhritarāshtra, out of so much agitations in his mind, was unable to get sleep. So here was Dhritarāshtra, who then calls for Vidura, seeks some advice. So Dhritarāshtra sends a servant. The servant goes and gives the message to Vidura. The emperor, Dhritarāshtra, wishes to see you. Please come urgently. And Vidura is a very pious, highly knowledgeable, and very austere person. He comes forth, sits with Dhritarāshtra, and then begins the discourse. Dhritarāshtra asks him a few questions, expresses his conflict, and Vidura goes on. Perhaps just a dozen verses are in the mouth of Dhritarāshtra. The rest of it is all said by Vidura. Adding to 592 verses, Vidura Neeti, occupying, as we said before, 8 chapters, is a wonderful source of a lot of guidance on how we may conduct our own life, how we may lead, how we may handle finance, how we may handle enemies, how we may handle land, property, how we may deal with varieties of challenges, especially in administration, in governance. And the wisdom here is never compartmentalized. It is interwoven with living a life of values. Dharma and this Rajyabhara, administration, have to go hand in hand. It's not that Monday to Friday you do whatever you want to do and then Saturday, Sunday, pray God, please forgive us for what we did. No. All the 7 days, 24/7, moral principles, ethical principles are supposed to guide us. We cannot compartmentalize the week. 5 days I violate any rule, and then Saturday I invariably, without fail, go to a temple and ask God to whitewash all my sins. You can't say that. That is terrible. With this, let's see some simple slides at this moment. Share screen or webinar 274 on this day of August 25, the day before Sri Krishna Janmashtami. On the eve of Janmashtami, we wish to see some portions of Mahābhārata. In Mahābhārata too, finally, it is the glory of Sri Krishna who guides Pandavas, who protects them, who leads them. But here we are going to see Vidura's words. Vidura Neeti, the prudence of leadership in Vidura Neeti. Even though I myself gave the title, I myself had to check the dictionary once more what this prudence means. For sometimes we do use some words in our articles, in our speeches, but a part of our mind says, hey, are you sure you used the word rightly? We also need to double check. The ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason. Got to use our reason, thinking ability. Is this right? Should I really do it? Or am I acting hurriedly? Half an hour before starting this webinar, I chanced upon a short video where a man is coming home in his own car and he honks. He blows the horn before his gate. Maybe there was some servant who was supposed to come running and open the gate, but nobody opened, and the man is so angry. I am coming home after a long day of hard work and they are not opening the gate. What's this? And there is a CCTV, a camera up there in the air and is recording everything. That's what is shown in that video. And he goes a few feet behind and at high speed breaks his own gates of his own house, without realizing that his 8-year-old child meanwhile has come running to the gate. Papa has come, let me open the gate. 8-year-old girl dancing and coming to the gate. Before she opens the gate, this car has crashed and come and it hits the girl also. And the girl rolls on the ground. But the happy part of the whole video is somehow they show that also. She rolls a few 360 degrees into 3 or 4, but by God's grace, nothing happened to her. Slowly she gets up, maybe wounded a little bit, and the father is shocked. Oh my God, I didn't reason enough. I didn't use my reason. I am angry. Nobody is opening the gate. Where is that security guard? Where is the peon whom I appointed just a week ago with higher salary than ever before? Where have they gone? And all that is okay. But do you realize that your child or somebody might come just as you crash, as you hit the gate? But so he comes out very sad. He picks up his child. Meanwhile, others come and the child is okay. So that 1 minute video says to us, don't fall a prey to anger. Don't fall a prey to greed, lust, jealousy, revengefulness, so many negative emotions. Pujya Swami Chinmayananji said, Not to do what you feel like doing is freedom. And in order that we don't do what we feel like doing, we need to use reason, that is prudence. The dictionaries also say care, caution, and good judgment, as well as wisdom in looking ahead. The word prudence is used in such examples like sober prudence in dealing with one's own affairs, managing one's own affairs, handling one's own affairs. Okay. Now we go to Vidura Neeti proper. Let's see. I have said some of these points already. Vidura Neeti is in Mahābhārata, is in Udyoga Parva. It's also called Prajāgara Parva. 592 verses in 8 chapters. And we are here to see in this session leadership. Before we get into certain glimpses of leadership, we know we must recognize whether it's leadership or general skills of proper management, proper administration, proper handling of a team, a group, etc. If we don't do it properly, tension and fear will envelop us. Tension and fear had enveloped Dhritarāsthra. Therefore, he in fact says in the very first chapter, in the 10th verse, as the number shows, Tanme dahati gatrani tadakarshit prajagaram. Hey Vidura, I called you, for I am in deep trouble. My decisions, my actions have led me to such inner conflict, such turmoil. And this turmoil, dahati gatrani, is as though burning all my limbs. And tad akarshi, this inner conflict has brought about prajagaram. Prajagaram. I am unable to sleep. When I want to sleep, I go on thinking. And sometimes when I am about to think well, I get sleep. This is a tragedy. When we want to think, we get sleep. When we want to sleep, our mind goes on thinking, not in a creative way, but in a rather agitated manner. Therefore, it's important, young men and young women, or those of us who are old, it's never too late. We again and again have to re-examine where we live, the way we are living. And even if we have failed 100 or 1,000 times in controlling ourselves, in leading ourselves on the right path, never mind. Today is a new day. Today, behave in a proper way towards yourself, towards others. Be caring, be compassionate. As points will come up, what it means to deal with others. So here we are again. I added a slide this time. In fact, I spoke on this using the other 12 slides 2 days ago at a college, not in Bombay proper, in what they call New Bombay, Navi Mumbai. In Bombay proper also there is a college, SIES, South India Education Society, SIES. So long back when I asked one mischievous South Indian, what is this SIES, what does the SIES mean? He said it's our college. Yeah, but what does SIES mean? The abbreviation. That, somebody from Kerala or Tamil Nadu, he said to me, SIES means Sambar Idli Eating Society. I said, what? He was laughing. SIES means not Sambar Idli Eating Society, South Indian Education Society. It's perhaps 100 years old out there in Siam, but the one where I went 2 days back is in New Bombay, SIES College, Nerul, where Mata Amritanandamayi has a beautiful center also, the same area. Over there, this slide I'm showing you was not shown. I added it half an hour back. For I have attended a workshop by Rajiv Talreja. It's very good. And I have this book in soft copy in my Kindle, yet to read, but I have read some pages. I just wanted to show the very suggestive title that Rajiv Talreja, a CEO coach, has given to his bestseller book, Lead or Bleed. If you lead well, you will be happy. If you don't lead well, it can be very bad for you. Bleed, meaning you may be so sorrowful, you may regret, you may be filled with remorse. When we do not lead well, when we do not manage our affairs well, we suffer, and a lot of people will suffer because of us. So the caption he gave for his book, which I'll try to read again, now continue, I left at some point. I have it in the Kindle, Lead or Bleed. He is very practical. In fact, I don't mind saying 30 years ago, I was inspired by Stephen Covey, a American from Salt Lake City. And even now, I admire him. But in certain ways, Rajiv Talreja goes into the real nuts and bolts of leadership, the real specific challenges, more specific, especially in business. In fact, his workshop was called Business Success Workshops, BSW. And he says, if some of you are not already owning a business, don't attend my workshop. I violated that and joined because I am interested in uh, these topics, number one. Or I am not a businessman, but I do have to run spiritual programs, extend spiritual programs to larger numbers of people. Mine is not a commercial venture, but as an NGO, or as they call in the West, non-profit. We too do pretty much many of the things. We too have to handle finance, we too have to handle land and property, we too have to handle legal dimensions, we too have to handle manpower, especially as our spiritual projects get a bit larger. So lead or bleed. Yes, everyone here, every one of us has to learn better skills of leading. A woman or a man, to be wise, how should they act? The first selected verse is, I will not repeatedly say the number, it shows on the slide. First chapter, 21st shloka. Nishevate prashastani ninditani na sevate anastika shraddadhanaha etat pandita lakshanam. This is a general remark on not necessarily leaders, but a wise person. Pandita. Pandita here doesn't mean a priest at a temple or a Brahmin, etc. Pandit Nehru was neither a Brahmin nor a priest. Vijayalakshmi Pandit, many of them. The Vijayalakshmi Pandit, as you know, was sister of Jawaharlal Nehru. They were administrators, they were representatives of organizations. Today, the word Pandit goes with many people. But here, the word Pandit means a wise person. So ignore all other meanings of the word Pandit. A wise person, a woman or a man, is marked by these four qualities. She consciously chooses to do what is praiseworthy. Not that she plays to the tunes of the society, but with certain parameters of values. These are the right values. If I do this, even though there is some difficulty, I may suffer some discomfort in the process. There may be some opposition to this also, but if my heart is convinced that this is the good one, eventually all of them will appreciate. Therefore, sevate becomes nishevate. She goes for what is prashasta. Prashasta is good, auspicious, something that is praised by people, appreciated even by our enemies. The enemies also will raise their eyebrows. Really? He did that? She sacrificed her comfort for the sake of her group, for the sake of even uh, her opponents? What a noble gesture. So noble acts are called prashasta karma. In contrast, there are nindita karma. Ninditani na sevate. This wise lady does not go for such courses of action which eventually lead her to remorse, to regret. Ninditani. Anastikaha, shraddadhana. Nastika means having no belief. Na asti iti yasya chintanam sa nastika. Na asti. Ishvaraha na asti. Shastrani na santi. Maulyani na santi. Values. What value, what truth, that is all only in the books, Like that, if somebody talks, he is a Nastika. Whereas a true leader, a truly wise person, has seen somehow, thanks to Purva Sanskars and thanks to keen observation in this life too. Purva Sanskar are impressions we bring from previous lives. They are also part of what we are. And in this life, the lifespan of this birth, we learn. We make mistakes, but we learn. In the light of what we have learned, we no more remain non-believers, but we believe in higher values. We believe in a higher power. We believe in holy books which have so much good in their teachings. Shraddha dhanaha, we trust. We have such noble faith. Etat pandita lakshana. There is a legendary swan which is supposed to take only milk. If you place before it a bowl filled with milk mixed with water. Such a situation is described in Sanskrit by the word Hamsa Kshira Nyaya. Hamsa Jalena Mishrite Kshire Kshiram Eva Swikarot. It takes only milk. It leaves behind water. Whether actually a swan can do it or not is not an important point. In the literature, we use such expressions. Like in the Western literature, they have a concept of a bird called phoenix. This bird phoenix goes into fire. Everybody thinks it's burnt and turned to ash. But the bird phoenix, after a while, emerges from the fire brighter than before, dynamic, energetic, and flies off into the air. So anybody who almost is, thought of as dead, re-emerges with new vigor, with new vision. Then we say, look, that's the return, the re-emergence of the phoenix. Whether such a bird actually exists or not, that symbolism, that way of putting things, is a powerful tool in language to convey a point. So Hamsa Kshira Nyaya, like that swan which takes only milk and leaves water behind, when milk and water are mixed in the bowl, you and I should develop the ability to first identify what is prashasta and go for it. We should recognize what is nindita and leave it. More spontaneously we do it, so much the better for us. Then Vidura comes into the picture now. He says, when the previous verse also was by him only. Whom should a leader trust? That's another question. Because when you are leader, especially you have some money, you have some resources, you are doing well. Tom, Dick and Harry surround you. Everybody says, do as I say. I tell you the way to go ahead. Many a time they are all interested in filling their pockets. So, who is trustworthy? The shloka goes, Na vishvased-avishvaste, vishvaste na ativishvaset, vishvasad ayamutpannam, moolanyapi nikrintati. Suppose you know somebody has been not doing really well, there's some bad reports, you find out the antecedents. Then don't be over heroic. Don't say, yeah, I have heard that he did wrong things at many places and he is not all that honest. But you know what? I believe in the deep goodness of every human being. Who knows, yesterday morning he might have completely changed. I believe in the divinity in everybody. Therefore, I'm going to take his help. I'm going to do what the way he says. You are taking a big risk. Even if you believe in the essential, inherent divinity of everybody, there is God in Hitler too, there is God in Gandhi too, there is God in everybody like that. Yeah, that is true. But do one thing. If you are of that point of view, then give some small work. Let that person prove himself. You go step by step. But some people do not do that. That's crazy thinking. That is indiscriminate behavior. Vidura warns us against such thoughtless behavior. Avishvaste na vishvaset. If somebody's track record has not been good, for heaven's sake, don't trust him right away. Check him out, test him out if you are so compassionate. Then coming to vishvaste, those who are fit for vishvasa, those who deserve to be, trusted. Yeah, okay, take them in your team, assign to them work, but na ativishvaset. Do not excessively trust them. Because when you trust somebody excessively, even though that person for a good length of time was good, looking at how you are leaving everything with him, not asking any question also, can get perverted. I heard once that there was some rich businessman who came to an ashram and gave some huge donation. And first, nobody took it too seriously. They were happy. Another time he gave. Then he got some work done in the ashram. He built the compound wall. He built one extra, classroom or something. So many. Then the guru and everybody made him a member of the trust or the board of God, directors, this, that. And then at some point they actually gave that person total freedom. And that is when after 10 or 15 years, I believe that man transferred huge amounts of the ashram to some other trust, some other, place where he was involved more. Then everybody woke up. The ashram became bankrupt overnight. And that man was very difficult to handle. Everything had been transferred and then a long legal battle, especially in India, generally we find legal battles take very long time. Therefore, na ativishvaste. And when you trust anybody too much or when you trust the person not to be trusted, bhayam utpannam, you very soon end up in having lot of fear, insecurity. I made a mistake. What will happen now? Moolani api nikrintati. That state of mind can take you to ruin. It can ruin you. Your moola means even the basic capital in you, with you, can be destroyed. Thus, a question whom to trust has been guided in a rather simple way. Yatha madhu samadhatte rakshan pushpani shatpadaha tadvadarthan manushyebhyah adadyat avihinsaya. is about levying taxes. A leader, these days, ministers, lawmakers, senators, congressmen, congresswomen, MPs, MLAs, all this, they decide how much tax we must put on which category of people, which products. Whole lot of taxation is a big subject. Day before when I spoke, my audience was all students of commerce and banking, and taxation was one of their subjects. Before I went to the lecture hall, I was sitting in a library for a few minutes. I saw so many books on taxation. Therefore, when I had to lecture, I just spent only 1 minute. Taxes, all of you know well, I need not say anything. But now also I have not much to say, but the spirit here is very good. Just as a bee, honey bee, a honey bee goes from one flower to another. It may take the nectar from flowers, drawing nectar from 100 flowers in a single day. Even as it goes to 100 flowers, it does not in any way damage a single flower, does not make a single flower lose a petal or get mutilated in some way, get disfigured in any way. No. Rakshan Pushpani. It takes what it needs very carefully and then flies off. Rakshan, protecting, that means not injuring. In that way, administrators, lawmakers, people in power should tax citizens. Without taxing the citizens, how will their work go on? How will development take place? How will the routine expenditure be possible? Pushpani Rakshan Shatpadaha Madhu Samadatte takes nectar which later becomes honey. Tadvad, in that way, Manushebhyaha Arthan. Artha here is tax. One should collect tax. Adadyat, one must take. Adadyat. Ahimsaya, without hurting the citizens. Ahimsaya itself is avihimsaya. One more V is upasarga is added for probably metrical adjustment. These are all mostly anushtup shlokas, 8 syllables in each quarter. Adad, adadyat, then vihimsaya, 8. If you say adadyat ahimsaya, it will only be 7 syllables. So, Vidura Neeti, I guess, composed finally in poetic form by Vidura ka Bap, Vyasa only. Vyasa wrote the whole Mahabharata. It's interesting. So, avihimsaya means ahimsaya. Do not hurt the citizens. Do not make citizens cry. Do not make them bleed. Your bad way of leading should not lead to their bleeding. Other day, a short message came to me in which it was said, somebody, yeah, old person left behind a memoir. He was one of the survivors of the huge amount of violence that took place during the partition of India, 1947. And he was saying, uh, I think he heard from a railway officer. When a certain train came from Pakistan bringing refugees, Hindus were running for life from Pakistan. A whole train was bringing them to Amritsar. I guess Amritsar. Maybe Lahore to Amritsar or something. So Amritsar. The train came. So the railway officer went to the platform. He was said to welcome them. Come on. We have made arrangements to, organize some stay for you. All of you have, saved yourselves from the carnage that is happening there. But the railway officer was shocked. Not a single person was getting down. Eh? What is this? Why are people not getting down from this train which has come from Lahore? Then he gets into one compartment. He almost loses consciousness. That compartment was filled with dead bodies. He goes to another compartment, another bogie, dead bodies. The whole train was filled with dead bodies of Hindus. Then they found one person who was not dead but was badly injured. And I believe that narration says in that message, that man, I believe, said a statement. Gandhiji said some 6 months ago, India will be divided upon my dead body. India was not divided upon the dead body of Gandhiji. India got divided on the dead bodies of lakhs of people like my brothers and sisters and my family. He cried. India was divided over the dead bodies of lakhs and lakhs of people, especially on the western border between East Punjab and West Punjab, and this side, Sindh. Everybody knows. So you see, I am nobody to judge. Gandhiji's name was taken. That man was, in fact, the person who shared that message with me happens to be, I think, granddaughter of somebody who survived. So somehow saved himself, came to East Punjab, and then slowly settled in Delhi. So that person, survivor's granddaughter, said to me, my grandfather was so angry with M.K. Gandhi, etc. This is all called controversy. We don't want to judge any particular person here. Maybe it was so complex, anybody in that position would have made mistakes. British government, why they could not handle it properly, we don't know. They just cleared everything but left behind such a gory scenario. British government or politicians, Jinnah or Nehru or Gandhi or anybody else, but it was so terrible. But one thing can be said in the context of this evening's webinar. When there is no proper management, when there is no proper leadership, when there is no proper foresight, then yes, hundreds of thousands of people can bleed, can die, can get mutilated, can lose their near and dear ones. Anything can happen. Therefore, one last time, Rajiv Talreja's title is very good. Lead or bleed. One more line you can add. Make people bleed. Lead well, then you save people from bleeding. You save yourself from bleeding. Now, in the taxation also, thoughtlessly, if someone taxes people, then everything, the economy may go down further and further, and many other ways also people suffer. Sometimes when we are in leadership positions, we have dilemmas. To help A, we will have to apparently do injustice to B, and to help B, we will be putting A to some injustice. So how do we decide what to go for and what to let go of? There is this wonderful shloka. The question therefore is, how does a leader determine priorities? Priorities. What to do first, etc. This is a well-known shloka. I wouldn't be surprised if it's found in some other scriptures also. It's a subhashita that we have learnt in high school without knowing the source. Tyajet kularthe purusham gramasyarthe kulam tyajet gramam janapadasyarthe atmarthe prithivim tyajet. Yes, you cannot please both A and B. You cannot make everybody happy in certain situations. You got to decide. You can't start everything together. Do this first, then do the second, then do the third. Prioritize. Long back, an engineer in Hewlett Packard in Silicon Valley told me, I was living there those days. He shared with me how he manages all his tasks. That has remained with me in memory. He said, Swamiji, I have to do so many things at my company, not only technical jobs, but administrative jobs, so many things. And I am now, as you know, an active member of Chinmaya Mission, where you are the new Swami now. He said, 94, 1994. Then he said, but I have a formula. Prioritize, focus, execute. Easier said than done. You have to prioritize. Having prioritized, then don't go on wasting time. What shall I do? What shall I do? Take the high priority. Focus only on that. Don't even think that you have other things to do for a certain duration. Execute. Something similar here. Prioritize. In comparison with a family, a single individual is less important. He is not unimportant, but the whole family is more important. For the sake of the family, you may have to sometimes put in the interest of a single individual in the back seat. We will come to him later. We'll attend to her later. That kind of. Not that we completely shut our eyes to that person. The family, larger group comes first. For the sake of a village, a family also may have to be sacrificed. For the sake of a country, the village has to be sacrificed. And then the last line is very interesting. Atmarthe means for the spiritual growth. For our inner growth, for spiritual growth, sometimes we may have to put the whole earth in the back seat. That's what Prince Siddhartha did when he had clarity. He was very clear that he was all set for discovering something which would do much greater good to the entire humanity and to himself than occupying the throne and running the country, running the kingdom of Kapila Vastu. So there are five of these: an individual, a family, a village, a country, and spiritual growth. That spiritual growth, provided you have the clarity, comes on top. If you don't have the clarity, you give up this or that, you are neither here nor there. Therefore, regular study and practices and arriving at certain clarity is important. We have another two or three slides. There are simple tips here. When many are ready to advise us, how do we judge who is really our well-wisher? Sulabha purusha rajan satatam priyavadinaha apriyasya tu pathyasya vaktā shrotā cha durlabhah. Vidura says, Rajan, O king, O emperor Dhritarāsthra, there are many people among your sons too. Some of them come and just praise you. Priyavadina. They praise you. They make you feel so good about yourself. That way they deceive you. Their whole idea is to make you agree to their plan of action. As the second half of the shloka says, apriyasya tu pathyasya vadinaha or vaktā shrotā cha durlabhah. Those who are your true well-wishers, when needed, will be able to speak to you the unpleasant truth. They will be able to speak to you what is truly good for you. They are not there to just praise you. They are there to tell you the plain truth. They call a spade a spade. You may not like, you may even put them in jail, but they will, from the bottom of their heart, tell you, my dear friend, I told you what is good for you. If you are angry with me, that is sad, but this is the truth. Be careful. Do this, don't do that. In this way, about taking advice from people, it is said we should not be carried away by how they praise us, how beautiful they look, how rich they are, how elegant they are, how well positioned they are. There are so many things which make us get carried away, which make us lose judgment. Listen to what they say and check, is their message or their advice true? Does it make true sense? Or am I very influenced by whatever their looks or their position, where they come from, and so on? Here is a verse we'll quickly see. Two verses actually, but the first one just announces Saptadosha Sada. One God is Saptadosha Sada Rajna Hatavya Vyasanodayah Prayasho Yair Vinashyanti Kritamula Apishwaraha. There are 7 defects. Leaders have to all the time be on guard and avoid those wrong practices. Otherwise, they will be destroyed. Interest and capital both will be gone. Striyaha. If it's a king, weakness for women. If it's a queen, a certain weakness for some men. So, attraction to the opposite gender. Aksha, gambling of some kind or the other. Mrigaya. Mrigaya is probably hunting, where also one tends to get addicted, and one may, in the excitement of hunting in forest, they may go deep into the forest and then get killed by wild animals. One has to keep it under control. Kings used to. So a lot is said using the context of a king, and modern times it is leaders of various other kinds. Panam, alcohol, vakparushyam, being very harsh in your speech. That is the 5th. Vakparushyam cha panchamam. Mahacha danda parushyam. One was being harsh in speech. Another is when you have to pronounce a punishment. If you are a higher officer, you have the powers to punish somebody, suspend him for a day, deny to him a certain increment in his salary, do not invite him to some program, do not include him in a team that is getting a major project, etc., etc. But it should be appropriate. Danda Parushyam is, in Kannada there is a saying, don't use Brahmastra against a sparrow. You are angry with a sparrow and don't throw Brahmastra. Brahmastra, like these days, you are angry with something another country did and you hastily throw a nuclear bomb. And they will also throw, every country gets nuclear bombs. If not their own, from somewhere they get mutual destruction. So don't throw Brahmastra at a sparrow. Lastly, Artha Dushanam, misuse of Artha means money, financial irregularities. And there is a very interesting verse now. The language used is very powerful. When you are a leader but you are utterly ineffective, let us say, you will get into such a trouble, such an unenviable scenario. Suppose you are very happy on some day, your subordinates will not value it. Suppose you are depressed one day, that also doesn't mean anything. Suppose you give them some gifts, they don't value it much because they lost their respect for you. And suppose one day you are very angry, you yell at them. They'll keep quiet, but in their mind they'll let him shout. Who cares? That is so terrible. Prasado nishfalo yasya krodaschapi nirartakaha natam bhartaramichanti shandam patimiva striyaha. A woman finds her husband is utterly lacking in manliness. Important. A man, he doesn't have qualities of a man at all. Then slowly the woman loses interest. Shandam patim yata striyaha. na icchanti. That way, members of your organization slowly lose interest in you. You announce some gifts, they don't value it. You announce some punishment, they say, let him do. It won't go far. Therefore, it's important to learn leadership skills. Never too late. Last but not the least, it's a general advice. Go for ethical leadership. Today it's a big topic, and hopefully we'll have a webinar itself on this ethical leadership itself. Follow dharma, you will win. That sums up. That doesn't mean you learn some shlokas on dharma and recite every day, then conduct your business in as foolish ways as before. No. Even if you don't know any shloka on dharma, it's okay, but your action should be dharma. Even if you don't write an article on ethical leadership, you don't speak on ethical leadership, no problem. But your leadership has to be ethical. To have leadership, ethical leadership is different from being a scholar on the topic of ethical leadership, right? Dharmam acharato rajnah sadvishcharitam yaditah vasudha vasusampurna vardhate bhuti vardhini. If a leader called Raja here, king, practices dharma, that is ethics, proper principles. Stephen Covey calls it principle-centered leadership. First, it was part of his major book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Later, a separate book he made. He brought out an elaborate treatment of the topic, principle-centered leadership. In his book, he says, there are many people who are money-centered. Their mind revolves around money. There are some who live their life pleasure-centered. Some who are very attached to their wife-centered life. And women there are who are so attached to husband. Either attached or so angry with husband, day and night they think negatively about the husband. That's also husband-centered life, enemy-centered life, friend-centered life. Then he says, don't do all that, be principle-centered. That is what is said in our ancient scriptures. Dharmanishta Nayaka. Dharmam acharato rajnaha sadvischaritam aditah. What sajjanas have done from time immemorial. Then your organization, the whole earth will be filled with wealth, prosperity, happiness, maximum beauty will come to that organization, that country. Vardhate bhuti vardhati. Om namo bhagavate vasudeva. Oh. So I go to gallery. Chat. There may be some questions written down on the chat box. Others can turn your mic on and ask also. Please go ahead.
There is one Swamiji on the chat box.
On the chat box?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, I'll look up.
By Mr. Vivek Ranjan.
Okay, Jnan Ranjan Das, Namaskar. Namaskar, Janji, so nice to see you here. Patricia, Namaste. Where is the question? Vivek Ranjan has asked, is the higher power synonymous with higher values? Can we see the two separate from each other? Yeah, they are separate actually, but on a higher plane of philosophy, they merge. Otherwise, there are many atheists who don't believe in God, higher power, but they are very honest. There are. Then there are some who go to all temples and who cry before gods, who do anushtana, who do puja japa, but unfortunately, because of some purva vasanas, in spite of their sincere prayers and puja, etc., they are not showing off. They have some purva vasanas or some bad habits they developed, they are not ethical. But on higher plane, when you are more integrated, which is not easy, whenever somebody is really very, very mature, then one's life also has higher values and one's belief system will accept God. Somebody like Einstein himself believed in God, not in the very popular kind of temples or churches, but he believed in God. Uh, Therefore, even in some matter of science, he said, I don't think God plays dice with the universe. He brought the idea of God. Therefore, on a lower level, they are very different. But on a higher level, as one is more mature, if not in the form of Krishna or Rama or some other particular, but certain, there is a law, there's something higher beyond our reason. That kind of acceptance comes about. They become one on higher planes.
So, Namaste Swamiji, Vivek Ranjan here again.
Please.
So, when you were talking about this topic, I mean, this has come to my mind many times. I mean, I have myself a background in physics. A lot of people, even, spiritual people, say be open, don't accept anything unless you have experienced it. Because, don't just accept something because it has been told to you or it has been taught to you.
Right.
But you still have a chance to live a very ethical, like all the things you said. Because
right.
I mean, should I believe in something which I have not experienced? So, most of the scientists, in my understanding, they are open to changing based on what they learn, rather than having an answer beforehand that this is the answer that we should all find, right? Instead, we should be open to finding an answer if you ethically proceed,
Correct.
So that is why my question was there.
Certainly, it's a good guidance to say don't accept anything on face value. However, we also realize that our intellect has certain limitations, and there is the wisdom in saying we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So there is not blind faith. There is much reason in studying Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Sant Gyaneshwar, or there are saints and sages at different places. So to study them and to certain extent, what we call, don't accept them fully, but what he says could be true. That kind of tentative acceptance, Swami Chinmayananda used to say, faith is belief with pending confirmation. It's a certain belief with confirmation pending. I don't confirm that it is so, but I tend to accept the possibility. Otherwise, see, Einstein had said, science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. So science represents all this reason and logic, and religion is most faith-based. So if a scientist completely says, unless you show God to me right in front of me, and so that extent you can't. The nature of those issues is such, you can't prove certain spiritual principles in the way you prove some phenomena in the laboratory. Therefore, the middle path, we accept certain things tentatively. It appeals to me, but I don't want to act upon. Like, a speaker has, I'll give this example and conclude. A wonderful, well-known speaker has come. About him, much good is said. You go to the lecture, but you be sure, you say that I'm not going to become a follower overnight, nor will I pay one penny. I mean, there's a ticket I'll pay, I'll enter and listen to him and think about it. Just because he speaks well and just because thousands are behind him, I'm not going to, go headlong into him. I listen to him, think about it, and let's go slowly. That kind of tentative approach, that's being open. You're open to listening, open to his ideas. Okay, so Guru Prasad says, poor leaders like Dhritarāsthra have caused havoc but followers have been attracted to them for some reason. Even today, there are poor leaders leading the masses astray. How do you avoid such mistakes, especially at the national level? Yeah, the leaders, those poor leaders who are attracted by masses or who have attracted masses, they have their own ways. There are vested interests supporting them. There are large sections of the so-called masses who have some personal benefits. And sometimes looking at the personal benefits, I think they become blind to the incompetence or the corruption of the leaders. They see what is in it for us. My family will get this benefit. Whether the country will go to dogs or not, I am nobody to say. Let me for the present focus on what my family gets. That kind of narrow-mindedness is there in large numbers of people. Therefore, on a practical front, rather than creating more enmity before sections, people like us may try to uh, educate ourselves and educate others. Like the saying goes, give man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach man fishing, you feed him for all life. In a parallel manner, if we promote, beginning with our family, our friend circle, etc., if we promote right thinking and right deliberation, that can go a long way because blind followers are in very large number. So the poor leaders are supported by vested interests, and then vested interests are pampered by the poor leaders. So there is a certain vicious circle in motion there. Messages from 3 slides ago reminds me President Reagan's quote, trust but verify. Okay, now I understood. I read it once. Yeah, you trust, but before you act, verify. That's true. A very good case, not exactly in leadership, but there was one WhatsApp video that went around. If a lady at night has no transport, call this number. Then after 2 days, one more message came. It's a fake one. That's not sent by police. If you call that number, gundas will come actually. I myself had trusted that message. I said, good, the police are doing, because there was a lady police inspector's picture also in that first message. If you are in trouble, if you are a woman returning home at night, 11 p.m., you don't get transport, call this number. The police have a special. It was so trust, but verify before acting. Yeah. So in this particular example, any intelligent woman or our sisters and mothers have to be told, let's check, let's call the police station. Have you announced this thing? I believe the police commissioner, where was it, in Bangalore or somewhere, had to hastily make a clarification. We have not announced this. This number is given by gundas only, fake ones. So verify. Thank you for sharing that. Trust, but verify. Before acting, verify. Before investing, verify.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
I feel that anyway the leader has to balance between the head and the heart. Head means buddhi. Buddhi is a division. Always it divides. Heart is the one which integrates.
Yeah.
So with a background of his own conscious thinking and with an intellect of discrimination of a good for a given situation, he has to act upon. A leader is always a middle path he takes between the head and the heart, but dictated by heart.
Yeah, that is well said. Yeah. Swami Chinmayananji used to say, while judging others, use your heart. While judging yourself, use your head. So generally, we do the other way. While judging others, we go by head and rally our arguments to show how they are at fault. And while judging ourselves, we are so kind. Anybody in my position would do that. After all, I'm a human being, Generally, there is a tendency, though sometimes it's the other way around. There are people who condemn themselves too much and are too soft to others. But so Swamiji's statement also should be taken in a certain context. Judge others with your heart, judge yourself with your head. But what you say is more balanced and it goes to more context. Take the middle path. Don't be swayed either by the head, which can be ruthless, or by the heart, which can be too adjusting, too accommodating.
It is not emotional decisions in situations. It is an intellect which takes the decision, but that decision should be more helpful to the community or a bigger cause than the lower objective.
Right. That's the spirit of that shloka. Kularte purusham tyajet, gramarte kulam tyajet, janapadasyarte gramam tyajet, atmarte prativim tyajet. That was the shloka.
That's
Hierarchy. What you said is, a larger interest.
Yeah.
Mr. Prasad Vepa wants to say something.
Swamiji, there is on the chat box, can you please show slide number 3 and 6 again?
Okay, I will show. Yeah. Meanwhile, if Prasad wants to say, I can.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om. I'll show that.
Yeah, and thank you, Swamiji. It's always a delight to hear you talk about these topics. And prudent leadership or ethical leadership implies that the leader is making sound decisions and taking sound actions. So that is how a leader is judged by the results and by the actions. But
Yeah.
what constitutes right action or right decision? So to me, it seems like if it is rooted in the right principles, like if any decision or action has like 4 elements that are all right, like you start with the right intent. So what we want to do in your own mind, if that intent is right, and then the goals will flow from that, the right goals, and then you have the right attitude,
Yeah.
and then the right method. When all 4 are right, then you'll have a confluence of a right result or right action, and all be consistent with, of course, the principles of the Gita. So often we just look at discretely as an endpoint, but we have to see what makes it in fact right. So then we are following the karmanya adhikarasya principle. So this is right. So we're not interested so much in the specific outcome, but make sure that all 4 are right.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Beginning with
yeah. So, thank you for sharing that. So let me just share this once more. 3 and 6 are to be shown. Oh, it went to 12. Okay, I'll go back. This is 3. The 3 just says Vidura Neeti, where it is from, and so on. Number 6 is, whom should a leader trust? Do not trust people of dubious character. Do not excessively trust people who have a good name. Be careful there also. That's the one. The whole set we can send to you. I think Vibhaji has the email IDs. Or anyone who wants the whole PPT can write one message to Vibha Chaitanya. Are these 2 which you wanted?
Yes, Swamiji. It was requested these 2 only.
Okay, 3 and 6. 6 is presently showing.
Yeah.
And I will go back once more to 3. Oh, this is 4. 3.
Now, Jyoti Verma ji is asking something. What are the 7 things leaders should avoid?
Yeah, that was, I'll tell you. I'll put it in English without sharing only. C02. So, It says Triyo Akshaha Mragaya Panam 4. Vakparushyam, Dandaparushyam, Arthadushanam. That's the 10th slide. So from a man's point of view, the leader is a man. He should not have a weakness for women. In fact, when I spoke to the college students 2 days back, I said to them, it's good and necessary for all of you to have a companion and be loyal, be just, be fair. And the whole teaching is not against women or against men. But when you become a slave to a certain attraction and, you are unable to control the desire for female companionship and so on, and you become a slave to pleasure and so on. Striya, akshaha is gambling. They're also basically all these weaknesses. They are vyasana. Slavery to pleasure seeking, slavery to the excitement of making quick buck in gambling, slavery to this hunting in a larger sense means some activities where, number one, there may be some violence, but you get a kick out of it. And number two, hunting may represent activities where there is a lot of risk for the sake of some showing you are heroic. Do not put your life to risk, because if you die, you get injured, many others are negatively affected. Panam, alcohol, no need to elaborate. Vakparushyam is being harsh in your speech, where you could have said something in a rather pleasant or a sober way. You went overboard and used very unparliamentary words, insulted somebody in front of many others, which deeply hurt him and so on. That Vakparushya leaders should not have. Sixth is Dandaparushyam. When you have to take some action, punitive action, it should also be measured, not excessive. And Arthadushanam is finance management. We'll send you these slides. Okay, that was her question. Okay. Right. Yeah. One new message, it says, what are these? Oh, that is the one which we answered. Before we send this thing to people who may ask for it, we'll put in translations too. So as half an hour job, we'll insert English translations. The slides presently have just the Sanskrit shlokas in Devanagari Lipi. Okay. All right. Namaste, everybody. Good night to all in India.
Namaste, sir. Voice recording, whether we can get it?
That Vibhaji may answer.
Yes.
Voice
Yes.
record. That you can go on to YouTube. It is recorded there. It will
Whole
always,
thing.
whole thing will be there. Video will.
YouTube link also you will you will send it.
No, just go to Fowai.
Forward.
Yes.
And in that channel, you will find this. Webinar is the playlist. If you miss somewhere, playlist name is webinar. Under playlist of webinar, all these webinars are there. But today or tomorrow you go, it will be in the front page also.
Okay. Thank you.
You go to YouTube, then you click Fowai, Fowai. Then there you find playlists. Go to the playlist called webinars. As she said, today or tomorrow it will be on top. Later on, it will be little searching will be required. All the webinars are there at that YouTube channel Fowai.
Thank you.
The Atma Bodha classes, Bhagavad Gita classes, they are different playlists. You can Gita classes, videos, video, audio together.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Thank you very much, sir.
Namaste.
Hari Om.
Okay. Hari Om.
Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Vibhaji Pranam. Thank you. Hari Om.
Sudarshan.
Yes.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.